Okay. What's up, Danny? Big love from Melbourne, Australia. Right on, right on. This one's called Blah Blah Bleep. Hi, Angelo. Do practices like self-inquiry actually work to promote awakening? Yeah, I've been practicing, but there's been much doubt. Well, yeah, I understand that. The doubt is like the barrier, isn't it? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, doubt. What to do about doubt? What to say about doubt? The thing about doubt is it feels like what you are. It's it's uh it's one of those things that I think a lot of times spiritual seekers just don't like to hear when we say things like it's already here. It's already the case, right? You don't wake up to something new. You don't wake up later on. You wake up to what's already here. What's already here, right? And that can be really frustrating to hear because the mind says, well, then why don't I experience it? Like if it's already here, where is it? Why don't I experience it? Why? So there must be something wrong with me, right? Or I must not be doing something right. That's the doubt. The thing that's weird about it is that feels so familiar, right? It feels so much like you that it distracts you. It effectively distracts you is really what happens, right? And so the sense of being the failed seeker or the sense of being the one who can't figure it out is actually, in some sense, to the mind more interesting than reality. Doesn't seem like that would be the case, but it is, right? Somehow it's more enticing, right? The doubt is more enticing. And the only real reason I can give you for this that I've seen, that I can point to as something actual, is fear, really. Because, like, why would you prefer doubt over reality? Why would you prefer doubt over awakening or recognizing your natural awakeness, right? Well, logically, it doesn't make sense, but you do, right? It does happen. So why? Because if you let go of all the doubt, you're letting go of what you think you are. So you're going into what is unfamiliar, you're going into the unfamiliar right now, like in real time, immediately. Yeah. And that's scary. It's like, oh, that sounds cool, but maybe I'll doubt a little while longer first. It's almost like putting it off or something, like a procrastination thing. But if you look closely enough, you'll see it's happening. You'll see, like, yeah, I am turning back to the known. And there's fear, right? Fear does come. This is why I talk about the fear barrier, right? It doesn't have to be there. You don't have to experience it in the way I talk about it, but it's common. And fear is usually what you feel when you step out of the known, when you step out of the familiar, when you step out of the identification with doubt, because you're stepping out of identification, right? In a very real way. So that's the best way I can explain it in this moment. But just explore the fact that doubt feels like you. And could it be as simple as realizing that the thought that says, oh, no, it's not here yet. Oh, no, it's not this. Oh, no, it's not me. That thought itself is the final barrier. Could it be possible you can just literally let go of that thought? That the only thing that's preventing you from seeing awakening is that you believe it's not here. It's that simple, really. The mechanism of thought is a little more complicated, maybe like turning back to thought, then another thought, then another thought. You're getting caught in a thought train, but it's that first thought you believe. That's it. That's the barrier, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate it. It really is that simple, but you will feel some fear often when you let go. Cool. This is Jennifer. Hi, beautiful friends. I saw Jennifer a week ago or so at a retreat. It says, I hope you're rested up from the retreat. I'll be in and out as I'm working. Enjoy your live. Okay, cool. Thanks for checking in. The same person, blah, blah, bleep, said, hi, Angelo, do time and space actually not exist? Okay, I'm not going to answer that one for now because the more important one is your first question, for sure. The more important one is about doubt. It's not about conceptuality. Because one thing that can happen is once we start doubting, then we start going into conceptuality, which we're trying to make ourselves feel less doubtful by understanding. You're already down the road of a reaction. Come back to where the reaction started, right? Check out the doubt. That's where the money is for you, I think, right now at least. Cool. This is Cannonballs. Hello from East London. Well, hello. Another one. Hello from Palm Springs, California. That's Frank. What's up? I was just in California not too long ago. 777 says, hey, everyone, from Herefordshire, UK. Yeah, good to hear from you. Orca, what's up? Cannonballs. Can you explain the difference between normal consciousness and unbound consciousness? Yes. Yes, I can. Unbound consciousness is not bound to a thought. It's not bound to a sense of subject and object within consciousness. It is open. It is oriented toward thought because it doesn't have any reaction to thought, instead of being oriented away from thought in a kind of standing wave of distancing and evaluation and doubt and judgment. That's pretty much it. Bob, greetings from Maryland. What's up? What's up? Bob, it is a blessing to have you in this community. You are a cool cat, brother. From Nomi. Hello from Antwerp, Belgium. Very cool. Hello to you. Hello from St. George. That's Elisa. Just for now says, hi, Angelo and everyone. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Autumn says, hello, hello. Doing some hellos here. Hi from Rome. Ashley, it's a good thing that YouTube sends notifications to me, or I would have totally forgotten about this today. I was having too much fun filming my own stuff this afternoon. Good for you. This is from Blah Blah Bleep, another question. Again, back to the doubt thing. Let's not try to plan too much about what's going to happen after awakening, because again, these are. I'll read your question and I'll answer it briefly, but I really want to relate it back to your first question because that's what it comes down to. Your mind is trying to plan what's going to happen later, right? Saying, Angelo, is it still possible to make normal friends after getting too deep into non-duality, etc.? Again, these fearful thoughts, it's coming back to doubt. You're not going to be able to know the answers to these questions. Like I can tell you my experience or whatever, but that's not where this question points. This question points to how comfortable are you with letting go, right? You're at least partially comfortable. We wouldn't be having a conversation. But something's kind of scared, right? It's like, oh, but what happens? Will I have friends? Will I, it's like, what's it like? What's this like? What's that like? That's just the mind trying to understand instead of you letting go of the mind and plunging into the mystery. That's all that's happening. Very simple, mechanistically. Yeah? See that. And then jump or let go or stop grabbing onto the next thought. That's all it comes down to. Unknown Drunk says, normal people. Ooh. Nicole, hello, and Angelo and everyone. Hello, Nicole. Hello from snowy Alberta. Sounds beautiful. We had a gorgeous snow at Art of Living Silent Retreat 2 weeks ago. Beautiful snow the first or second day. Big, heavy snow, and it was just covering everything, all the trees, the branches, and man, it was gorgeous. It was really a nice week there. Heavy snow, and then it kind of started to melt some, warmed up a little bit. Weather was pretty good. Yeah, it was a good retreat. This one's from Badillion. Thank you for your wonderful and fruitful retreat. I look forward to re-listening to your talks. Do you have a time frame in mind? When will this be uploaded to YouTube? I don't. I always get them uploaded. Can be a week, couple weeks, whatever. I'll get them up soon, though. This is from J. Ladika. Hi, Angelo. Tell me more about this lack of agency thing. Did I choose to write that? Well, if you want to be technically clear about it, no. You just didn't. Even if your mind says, okay, well, I can decide to count to 5 and snap my fingers. And you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and snap your fingers. Be like, well, I made the choice. Then 5 seconds later, I snap my fingers. And it's like, yeah, that's not what I mean. I mean, the whole idea to do all of that shit was unconscious. You didn't choose to do it, right? You just did a complex thing, but like a simple computer can do a complex activity. It can count to 5 and then do something, right? What I'm saying is when you see it clearly, you realize like the whole thought that came into the mind that said this is going to happen, and then the movement of the body, all of that is without agency because you can see that directly. You can directly recognize that there is no agent. And when you do, you see that that's actually far more obviously the case than the whole sense of agency and control. And then you also see why it's such a relief to let go of the illusion of control, because you're also letting go of the illusion of being out of control and the illusion you need to be in control and that there's some agent that's responsible for all of it. To let go of all of that is a really nice surprise. It's like, it's reminding me of Christmas Vacation when, what's his name, says, "This is just a real nice surprise, Clark." Cousin Eddie. This is just a real nice surprise. When he talked about the tenement on wheels, he said, whatever he said to Cousin Eddie about his tenement on wheels, and Cousin Eddie said, "Don't get too attached to it, Clark, because it's going to be leaving it's going to be leaving with us when we leave here next month." Clark like spit out his eggnog. All right. Enough about Christmas Vacation. This is from Jay from the block. "Hi, Angelo. Was so lovely to meet you at retreat. Merry Christmas from Australia." Merry Christmas to you. Boundless Genergy. I love that. Sending love from Madrid. Right back at you. This one's from... Oh, wait. Did we? I think I skipped down a little bit here. This is from Greg Ivanov. "Beautiful Boon retreat, sir. Greetings from Lisbon." Right back at you. Very cool. "I've been doing self-inquiry, and lately looking into the mirror has been very strange. Not sure if that's normal." Oh, for sure. Things can get real weird. Visually. And in the mirror. Yeah. But I wouldn't worry about whether it's normal. I would just keep at the question. How is that question formulating for you? What's interesting about it? And just keep in that curiosity gap instead of trying to like understand something, and keep at it. Good job. All right. Danny Armstrong. "Big love. Working on Fetter 8, 9, and 10. Lots of swinging from absolute awe and wonder to deep sadness." Yeah. Can be kind of weird, right? Yeah, after the self-structure drops and you really do see through the agency, even though you might still feel a sense of agency at times, or you may feel some contraction around doership or something, but you see it's all totally an illusion, right? But things become kind of automatic experientially. You see that instead of being in control of your experience like you thought you were, experience is just happening to you, and it can come in waves, right? It's like something really releases there. You can get these waves of ecstasy, waves of even pain, waves of energy, waves of grief, but it's okay. It'll all calm down. The ship will right itself, basically, is it. Yeah, I think you're in a good place. Nomi says, "I've been getting deep into a non-agency, and it feels great and awful at the same time. I feel helpless, and a lot of doubt comes up. Guidance on this, trying to be okay with not being okay." When it feels great, that's an accurate experience. When it feels helpless and then doubt comes, look what's happening, right? See that the mind is just trying to regain its position of supremacy in your experience, right? That's what's happening. That's all that's happening. It's trying to say, well, wait a minute, maybe I can be in control. The key, I think, one of the keys that's really helpful is just to remind yourself, every time you feel like you're in control, you're setting yourself up to be out of control. To feel out of control. And you don't like feeling out of control. So really connecting the dots is very helpful here. Seeing like the ego does not give you what you think it does. The sense of agency, the illusion of self, all those things, they don't give you what they say they give you. They might for a very short time, but they set you up for the fall. And it's very uncomfortable. So the discomfort is in the turbulence. It's in the roller coaster ride that comes with that. And it's also in the dysphoria of dissociating into thought and mind. And that will settle more and more until it finally stops. And then things can get very peaceful. So just be patient. But keep looking closely at what's actually happening. Look at the promise that never delivers. Yeah. Danny says, it's beautiful. Then I also feel so detached from this apparent world, like I'm falling down a hole with nothing to grab onto. Your comments on this would be appreciated. Well, that's it. When that's there, even take away the whole interpretation of a hole or falling down. I know what you mean, totally. And just let yourself fall into the non-dual experiences that are here, right? The visual textures, which are amazing. They're kind of magical. They're not going anywhere. They didn't come from anywhere. They're unborn and undying. They're not apart from you. There's no you apart from that. And yet here it is, right? It can be very enjoyable for sure. Yeah, it's like, don't try to make a paradigm. That's the best thing I can say to you. Don't try to turn any of this into a paradigm or understand a way that it is. Like trying to land somewhere, landing in a paradigm, landing in a view, that tendency to kind of grasp some kind of inherent view or way of being, that tendency itself is uncomfortable, and it will subside. You'll stop doing it because you just realize, first of all, there's nowhere to land, as you just described. And second of all, trying to land is what's uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable not to have a place to land. It's uncomfortable to kind of feel like you should have a place to land and try to find it when there's no way for that to happen. Again, you said eighth fetter, so hopefully that's clear to you. This one's from Yaset. Justin says, Yaset Justin. The more embodied practice I have done lately, the more I feel I have noticed the tensions that exist in my body, and the more they seem overwhelming and constant. Is this new noticing common? Yeah. I would look at the interpretations overwhelming and constant, but the more somatic practices you do, the more embodiment. You can be surprised how much feeling there actually is to being in a body. That's how dissociated we are when we're mind identified. So that's an adjustment to see, like, holy shit, I feel a lot. But the real adjustment is seeing that those interpretations are what used to kick you into your mind very quickly. The belief that it's overwhelming. Who is there to be overwhelmed? It's not overwhelming. It's just what it is. Overwhelming is an interpretation that will amplify it times 100 real quick, right? And constant, look at it. Look at your experience and see, is anything actually constant? Can you find anything that's constant? Like, I don't, So the interpretations are where the money is here. Just keep noticing. Don't beat yourself up for having them. Don't push on anything. Just notice the interpretations and feel what there is to feel. And over time, you will not only get used to it, you'll learn that it can be enjoyable for sure. This is Slater. Let's see. When you have that doubt, recognize it. How do you get underneath that thought to be able to let it go? Kind of like what I was saying to someone earlier here, right? How do you get underneath the thought to be able to let it go? You don't have to get underneath the thought. The thought is nothing. That you have to see that you're the one holding on to the thought. It's a choiceless choice, but if I'm going to talk about choice, this is where I'll talk about it. You're choosing to grab onto the thought. The thought's not grabbing onto you. I promise. It's just a thought. Let go right now. Don't make another thought. Just stop. See what happens when you stop. Let the gap open up. Let yourself not grab onto another thought. That's how it works. Cannonball says, is the story I tell myself about my life no more or less real than the story of Father Christmas? Yes. I agree with that. It's an accurate statement. Unknown drunk. A lot of clarity opened up on my way home from AOL. For a few hours, thoughts were obvious, and I had a bit of access to unbound consciousness. It was so obvious how deluding thoughts are. Part 1 of 2. Hold on, let me find the other part. It's not obvious now, though. LOL. So I'm trying, with mixed results, to be equanimous to my normal state of not seeing thoughts clearly. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes you have something open, like an aperture does open, where what a thought is, moment to moment, is very clear. And there's a very clear sense that, it's nothing I need to worry about, grasp onto, grab onto. That thought's not defining anything. But even when you recall that, sometimes you can kind of try to turn it into a watcher state. I wouldn't do that. Don't worry about it. Just stay with what's experienced right now. Let that go. And it's okay to let it go. If an insight dawns, a true insight dawns, then you can't hold on to it anyway. It's not about letting go or holding on. It's always here. The insight is always here, right? So you can always let go. There's nothing you need to hold on to. Nothing is precious in that way. Just let go. Feel the letting go. Feel what's happening right now. See what's happening right now. Pay attention to this. Thoughts now. Consciousness. Sensation. Emotion. Yeah. It's all about letting go. Okay. Let's see. I skipped something here. Ashley said, I thought you might find this funny, but the timer on my math exam was weird. I had to keep looking at it to know if I was on track or not. It's so weird. Yeah. Yeah. Time gets so weird. Sometimes it seems to go so fast. Sometimes it seems to crawl, but it's so unpredictable and unreliable in my experience. Yeah, time is very strange. It's such a mental construct, obviously, right? Subject to all the conditions of the mind, and the mind is highly conditioned. PSP says, how to know when do which practice? For example, when to do attention meditation, vipassana, loving kindness, self-inquiry, etc. What to do every morning, for example, should I divide the 30-minute session? If you have one 30-minute session, I probably would not. Just pick one thing and do it. Or you can rotate through it every day if you want to. But if you have 30 minutes, I would just do one thing that day. Yeah. And certainly don't think about it throughout. Like, oh, should I do something different? Make the choice and just do it. Set your timer and you're good. If you have two 30-minute sessions or say two 20-minute sessions maybe, you could do two different practices. Shorter than 20 minutes, I probably wouldn't. I don't know. That's arbitrary, but I'd probably just say, yeah. You're better off having a deeper practice, like digging deeper in one well than to try to change your practices throughout 30-minute period. This is DK Dude Man. Yeah, I've been sitting with a lot of that doubt and not good enough. Lots of intense sensation and tension in the body has been coming up, but that feels a lot better than numbing it. Good. Exactly. That's insight right there. It's a maturing of your insight. Jennifer says, doubt has been very active lately, definitely tied to a fear barrier. I sat in absolute agony last Sunday after retreat. I bought into it for a bit. It was nice story tied to religious trauma. Yeah, religious trauma, man. It's all over the place. It's not to be minimized. It's a big deal. PSP says, how can it feel when the eighth fetter falls away? Have you heard instances of it being unmanageable? It's never well, okay. It is unmanageable. You can't manage it. It's funny you chose that word. I don't think it's arbitrary. It is unmanageable. There's nothing to manage. It's over. Management's over. So how strongly you react to that until you adjust to it varies a lot. Yeah. Some people find it extremely intense. Some people laugh. Yeah. But again, you can't plan ahead like that. You won't be able to plan for it. This one's from Mountains and Fog. Cool name. When I follow the be honest with my experience, I get a wide open but very concretely just right here presence. Perfect. Feels obvious, but also rather new. I assume this is on the right path. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and just keep dropping those descriptors if they get sticky, like new. Like this is new. This is even open. Like if you're using the word open to describe the experience, great to me right now, right? But if that experience is there, just notice even open, even like defining, oh, this is openness, this is new, right? Just even those quote unquote new labels for your experience, which the mind will come up with new ones. Continue to let those go and just stay with it. That clear, that close, simple. But you're in a good place. Cool. Elena David says, interestingly, all the Q&A double barrels and videos answer questions we didn't even know we had. These must be lying dormant until expressed, but touch some deep place of truth and knowing here. I think this is a really good point, and it's accurate. That I think I've said this before. Like, I don't know if you know anything about like DNA, right? It's just this helix of molecules, and it has like four basic types of molecules that encode all the information, right? Purines and pyrimidines, and two of each. There's basically these four molecules that carry all the information to create these complex organisms with complex behaviors. But they're super coiled, right? Like the way they're coiled into themselves, and the way they express, and the code and the order of those express tremendously more complexity than the DNA itself looks like it has. This is how I think consciousness functions in a way. Consciousness is kind of super coiled with all these thoughts, beliefs, reactions to thoughts, and identification with the reactions to thoughts and beliefs that are, what I mean by super coiled here is that they're kind of unconscious. They happen so fast that when we're in that standing wave of thought identification, we don't see how much that experience is conditioned, right? I really like in the Pali Canon, the consciousness isn't talked about super commonly, but it is referred to, and it's talked about as highly conditioned, which I totally agree with. But the more you slow down, the more you see like, oh, there's actually quite a bit there. And that's why I say it. I point to these things. I try to point to the subtle, because the more you see the subtle, the more you see into the subtle, the more that supercoiling can uncoil itself, and you kind of have access to that information. And with the information, which is just knowledge of the way consciousness and thought are functioning, then you can actually quit identifying with it. Strangely, this isn't knowledge in the usual sense, though. It's just knowledge of the conditioned experience of consciousness. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully that's not too confusing the way I said that. This is from Robin. Hi, Angelo. I have constant energy, solid objects in my body, on my body, and extending from my body. I've been going on for 1.5 years. I don't have to be in meditation or anything. What is this? Well, I can't give you an answer in words what it is, but it's what you're describing. You have energetic, either blockages, channels blocked, closed, some kind of kundalini stuff, but you know and you feel it. So you're already aware of it. That's what it is. The real question is, what do you do about it, right? That's what matters. Labeling it's not going to help you. I could call it kundalini. I could call it anything. I could just make up a name for it, but it doesn't help, right, to label it. That's the key is, what do you want to do about it? What do you want to do with it? So there are things you can do personally and specifically. You can inquire into it. What is this? But when you do that kind of inquiry, be specific about what you're talking about. Like one part of it, one blockage, one sense of contraction somewhere in the body. What is this? And be curious, like to feel into it. Like let the curiosity carry you into it, or let the curiosity allow the experience itself to overcome you to some degree. Let it open up the experience rather than label it or try to analyze it, because that's not going to get you anywhere with this stuff, right? This is very direct. So that's one way, is you can do inquiry. You can use loving kindness type practices with it. You can talk to it, you can parent it, there's all kinds of ways you can approach it. Parts work, something like that. You can also do relational stuff, right? Somatic practices, also direct somatic practices. There are a lot of ways to do that. I talk about those all the time. So any of those things you can do. If I could give you an inquiry question that can be pretty direct for this kind of stuff, but you have to be patient with it, it would be, what am I resisting? Or what resistance is occurring in this system right now? Because I find things like that are always resistance patterns, pretty much, in my experience. But it can take a while to see that, to see it uncoil itself, or to see it reveal itself as such. So just be patient, and those are the kind of approaches I would take. This one's from Dana Lynn. Huge identity collapse when I found out Dad was not my bio father, revealed when he was on his deathbed. Horrific at times, but ultimately allowing beginning of identity loosening and self-inquiry. Thoughts? I don't have any thoughts on that. That's great. Right? This is life going, oh, here's the thing you never thought you'd even have to accept. Pull the rug. Rug pulls are great for awakening. It's already happened, so I'm not, I wouldn't wish it on you if it hadn't happened, but since it happened, well, good. Let's see what's the Easter egg, right? What's the gold hidden in this? You feel it loosening. Self-inquiry, good. If I'm not that, who am I? If I'm not the son or daughter of so-and-so, who am I? If I'm not that, maybe I'm not the son and daughter of that other parent. Maybe I'm also not the mother of that person or the friend of that person. Maybe I'm not any of those things. All right? Neti neti. Buddha said it all the time. Look at this. That's not the self. Feel this. That's not the self. Listen to that. That's not the self. Right? Because there's something still sort of there, so to speak, regardless of what comes and goes, right? That's what those kind of pointings are for. It's like seeing that sound can be here. You can identify with it, I suppose, but then it goes away. And did you go away? Did anything really change? In some sense, yes. In some sense, no. Same with thoughts, though, right? You could have a thought that says, I'm a great person. And then you do something that would suggest, well, maybe you're not a great person all the time. Well, I guess you're not that. I'm a father. Oh, turns out I'm not, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can, anything you believe about yourself can be disproven or turn out to not be accurate in the quote unquote objective world. So all of those things are suspect to being defining of what you are. Moreover, even if it's not dispelled practically speaking, like you could have a belief, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a friend. And the moment that thought is just not in the mind, you don't stop being what you are. That's just a passing thought, right? So what are you? That kind of questioning is really helpful with these kinds of things. Cool. This is someone else asking, PSP. Thanks, Angelo. How do you feel about teachers that teach from having had awakenings, but not experientially abiding in no self, apparently meaning that there are traces of self-illusion still? Really depends on the teacher. They, like I talk about in my book, like you will also transmit, or you can transmit the remnants of self, right? But it really depends on their maturity and so forth. I mean, some people do a great job still. Others, like sometimes I see people and I'm like, oh, I wish they would just wake up more before they try to do that, because you can get yourself in sticky places with it, and your students too. So, but people can do whatever they want. I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm just here to recommend for a given individual who's listening to me what my best recommendation is so that they can continue to move toward liberation, essentially. That's it. That's how I orient this message. That's how I did it in my book. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do this. I'm saying if you do this, you could end up in a sticky position. So there's that. Okay. And even after no self-realization, like that, you're not done. I mean, there can be a lot of trauma, shadow work and stuff that comes up pretty quickly and heavily after that for a bit, for sure. Right. To not even see that's there and the self-structure is intact and it's co-opted the whole process. The ego has, come back with fire, which it does after awakening, or it can for sure. Yeah. So yeah, it can get sticky. This is from Mountains and Fog. I also find now I have a touchstone of presence I can open back to whenever, and it's against that ground that thoughts are sort of softening or biting less, but I can't say I've disidentified yet. It's all right. I wouldn't overanalyze anything. Just stay with the experience. Stay with the experience. Notice those thoughts that say, have I done this yet? Have I done that? Judgment thoughts, like those are passing thoughts, really. Come back to this experience, or notice that it's always here. Let it unfold. Let it just continue to deepen itself, carry itself deeper, and it will. This one's from C's Awful. I don't know if that's how I pronounce it. It says, my father died recently, and it felt like my brain was processing it with or without me. I recognize this object that I called Dad in my head, and it felt like I was trying to rectify that object. Yeah, it's interesting how that can happen, right? You start to see through your identification with someone, when they're just literally not there anymore. And they're not going to be in this lifetime, right? It's a very hard illusion to continue to uphold. It's easy to uphold when you can keep seeing them, right? So again, once there's a tragedy like that, there's there's an opportunity to find that Easter egg, right? And give yourself opportunity to grieve, of course. Feel it. The rest of the comment was, there was no longer him because he was gone. What I was eventually left with is just me. I can recognize how when you die, where's that me go? What makes you think that is any more real than the object called dad? But anyway, I can recognize how he had affected me, but it's harder for me to find the object I referred to as dad. It was very confusing for a while, and it uncovered some self-loathing because I didn't like being left with me because I hate myself. That's the kind of stuff you start to see, right? After the self-loathing rolled through, I'm not sure where I am at now. It feels like the grief has been processed because I'm back to routines, watching non-duality videos, for example, haha. Well, why do you need to know where you are? Does that make sense? Like, that's what I'm left with is, do you need to know where you are? What does that mean? Right? Yeah. Something has let go, right? And again, I think there is a clue there where you said, now what's left is me. I would look into that. In the same way that your idea of dad, your idea of father, now can't be upheld in the way it was before. It can't feel so real and solid because you see it as a mental construct, because what you were projecting it onto is no longer here and no longer appearing because of conditions. Same thing's going to happen to what you call yourself, your own physical body. So in the same way, like that sense of holding on to the me can also be let go of. That's what's coming up for me as I read this. Autumn says, I haven't fully experienced no agent. I know that I can't stop my thoughts when I want them to stop, so clearly it's not me. There you go. I have seen through the illusion of will, agency in Shikantaza, but the sense of self remains off the cushion. I can see that the urge to drop the self is also the self. But what to do next? That's Jay from the block. When you say the sense of self remains off the cushion, what form does it take? I don't know if you have kind of non-dual realization or not, but what form does that self take? A body? If you've seen through that, if you've seen through form, then it's much easier to do this because you see that it doesn't physically exist anywhere for sure. Clearly. So it's not a body. It's not a center. That's gone. So then what? What is it? It gets very subtle. Notice when it's there and notice when it's not there. That's it. It's all you can do, really. Because it will, like a filter or like a pulsar or something, it comes and goes. Not as fast as a pulsar, but it comes and goes. It'll be there, then it won't be there. It'll be there and it won't be there. And it feels very distinctly different. And as if you're really trying to parse out the border between when the self filters there and when it's not, just look closer and closer at it and just notice. Just remain curious about it. That's how it works, Yeah. Again, I'm assuming formlessness is clear and all that. Autumn says, yeah, there's no self there doing the thinking or not thinking. True. This is from PSB. What have you seen in relationships where one of the partners is all the way in the process and the other not? What are the common problems arising if they do? Thanks a lot. Well, it really depends. I think less on how awake one person is and not awake the other one is. As far as challenges, it depends more on whether the relationship is sort of based in mutual respect, honest connection, emotional clarity, emotional health. If that stuff's there, it doesn't really matter that much. I've seen it where one partner doesn't wake up, the other one does wake up, and I've seen it where they both wake up. I've seen it where they're both all about waking up. Yeah. But if one of the partners is like almost like jealous of the process because it's getting your attention and becomes manipulative and stuff, that's not going to last. That relationship's going to blow up, as it should. Kind of my opinion. So if the relationship is based on health emotional health, connection, mutual respect for the other person's path in life and all that. Should be fine, right? There's going to be adjustments, but there always will be. Let's see. Saranish says, Merry Christmas from AZ, Arizona. Love you. Appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you. DVD Mon. Hey, Angelo, after 3 years interested in this and failing to even have a glimpse, as far as I can tell, decided to take a break and refine attention via shamatha, TMI. Still watching your vids, though. Go for it. Try it. I've said this so many times, like, try something different. Try it. Think outside the box, man. I've seen people wake up doing all kinds of weird stuff. Changing their mind about what's interesting to them, letting go of the practices, trying completely different types of practices, paths, throwing the whole thing down the drain, going, I'm done with non-duality, and just stopping any of it. Maybe that's what you need sometimes. I don't know what anybody needs in particular. Oh, but you do. I know you do. Everybody has that. So that instinct at some level. So it's fine. And I trust this whole thing so much that, so what? If it's been a few years, maybe you just needed those few years. Maybe that's really softened up the ego. Maybe, not maybe. I know work has been done whether you know it or not. So I'm not that concerned whether you have a distinct awakening from your own perspective or not. The work is being done. No doubt about it. If you're paying this much attention to this stuff, it's being done behind the scenes. And maybe you did have an awakening. I don't know. I've had that happen too, where someone thinks they haven't, and then we talk, and I'm like, I think you actually have. Not as common, but I've seen it. So, but yeah, trust your instincts. Do something different. Shake it up. Think outside the box. Yeah. This one's Chris Walzer. Can you please talk a little bit about lack of agency versus efforting? When is it skilled to apply effort to focusing on the sense gates? Don't worry about the effort. Focused on practice. If you're looking at that going, well, how do I practice if there's no agent? You're just in your head, right? Practice just happens. I didn't say there's no effort. I just said there's no agent, right? Effort just comes forward. Movement comes forward. Rest comes forward or appears. Decisions appear, but it's just like, it's almost as if like the environment makes the decision. There's no agent, so you don't have to really get caught up in, well, who's going to inquire? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? That's a useless question, right? I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but some people get that from certain non-duality speaking approaches, and then they start telling their friends that, like, well, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? You don't have to worry about it, right? That's not the approach to see through agency. The approach to see through agency is to see through self and see through form and see through subject-object construct and all that. That's how it reveals itself, right? Okay, and it also says, or keeping my mind from wandering by versus observing where attention is. Yeah. I talk about in my book, there's a sweet spot that you can find between like alertness and relaxation. And it's also similar, like effortlessness and effort, right? If you're just totally daydreaming, dissociating and all that, then apply some effort, right? Focus a little bit more, sit up more, use more focused practices. Now, if you're obsessed with effort and you're rigid and you're obsessed with doership because of effort, and it's not happening and you're getting frustrated, you might just need to relax, So these are the things I tell people depending on which way they're fixating. Does that make sense? So for you, it might be a little bit more like relax. Don't worry so much about it. You're probably applying effort already. And just let yourself just settle into presence itself, which is right here. Settle in and let it settle into you too, right? Be willing to surrender that effort periodically. Okay. Cool. From Greg Ivanov. Is knowingness or conscious nature that makes it so that anything at all can be perceived the same thing as what you refer to as unbound consciousness? Sure. Yeah. Essentially, yes. Kathy Rose says, have become aware of some sort of movement of separation. It's becoming very obvious. Not Fetter 6, but maybe how experience gets appropriated. Any advice? It might be Fetter 6 that you're talking about. I don't know. Like what you're describing is a really good contemplation. I would keep looking at it. Just look closer at it. See what's happening. Like I said, I trust this process so completely. Like if you look closely enough at what's happening, or what's apparently happening, or what's not happening, it all shows itself. That's how 6th fetter works. That's how 7th fetter works. That's how 8th fetter works. Just keep looking closer. And I think you're doing it, right? Look at how experience gets appropriated. Who does experience get appropriated by, right? Apparently. Yeah, I like that. I like the way you said that too. PSP says, at times it feels like watching the universe unfolding like an immersive film where no one is in control. Exactly. But what about the watcher part? Is there a nucleus of a watcher there? How's in your experience? No watcher. There's nowhere for a watcher to be. But that's with clear non-dual realization, that makes it way easier to see that. Then it's that filtering tendency of thought that seems to create the self structure somehow. The selfing feeling like it's culminating in a self. That's what feels like a watcher, right? Yeah. So that will clarify. Federico says, hi, for a long time I've been doing shadow work and investigating the difference between emotion and suffering. I still feel suffering. Should I keep doing this or start to investigate non-duality? Both. Yeah, do both. They go hand in hand. But also, when you say I feel suffering, what do you mean by that? I don't even need your answer so much as, what do you mean by that? Like, look into it. What is it you're feeling? What is it? Is it a sensation? Is it a thought? Is it both? Where is that sensation? How does it move? How do you know it's there? Is it just a thought that says I'm suffering, moving through the mind? I assume it's more than that, but what, right? This is what I would say is I'd say really start looking at what suffering actually is. Become interested in it. This is from Night Lily. It's a cool name. Waves is right. Waves of tears, waves of laughter, small waves, a tsunami wave, and it all arises and disappears into stillness. Seems like. Beautiful. Very well said. Jeannie said, thanks for another wonderful retreat. You're very welcome. Hey, Swarnanda. This is the best present I've received this year. Merry Christmas. Jennifer says, but I definitely still find myself buying into those doubts. I feel the fear in this moment and see the tendency to pull away and run with those trauma stories. You know, part of it, Jennifer, is seeing that running with the trauma stories is what feels so damn uncomfortable, first of all. It does. That's what it is. It's not the feelings, sensations. But in the meantime, really look and see, are you actually running away? Maybe you're not. Dissociation, you're not really going anywhere. Not really. The feeling is still there. The sensation is definitely still there. Right? So that's part of this, is to see that, like, shit, I can't really run into trauma away. There's no way. Like, I'm feeling this. That's part of the maturing of just seeing, like, oh, there's nowhere to go. Right? Cool. Jay from the block says, the immense fear I've experienced on psychedelics, feeling out of control, like experience is too intense, insanity, necessarily something I'll need to confront on the realization path eventually. No, not necessarily. Psychedelics can confuse things, I think. They can be helpful, but they can definitely confuse things. Yeah, you don't have to go through delirium. You can get damn near delirious, which is that feeling of like psychosis and total confusion and massive disorientation that's like completely non-functional with psychedelics, right? Things like that. You don't need to have that to awaken. Definitely not. This one's called Sky of Honey. I love that name. Hi, Angelo. I was listening to the no world video this morning. I'm aware that I just don't get it all when you speak about that subject. That's okay. However, quite regularly I find that my eyes were looking at something which my mind doesn't label, and I'm seeing in 2D. Yeah, I find it quite interesting. Is this the visual field shifting, do you think? Yeah, that's more like the sixth fetter. And then what I'm talking about when I say formlessness is like the seventh fetter. The no world video is the seventh fetter. So they seem different, but they're two steps in the same direction. That flatness, you're seeing the visual field as it is without the extrapolation of distance and the subject here and objects out there. So keep looking and noticing, like, well, if there's that flatness, where's the subject? Where's the sense of you? Where's the center? It's made up. Yeah. And when that's clear, then you can start to really look at, like, well, are there objects then? That's what I'm asking when I say, is there a world? If you're just seeing flatness, well, what makes you think there are objects? And then you can really start investigating that until it's instinctually clear, directly clear, unequivocally clear that there aren't. That's what that video is about. All right. Danny says, thank you for your help. I'm 100%, or you, Angelo, are 100% right about how enjoyable the textures of life are. It's like the mind wants to numb all of this. Yeah, it's strange, right? I just get caught up and come back. There's nothing to say. Yeah, at first it's like, yeah, it seems so fucking intense. Like I'm around people sometimes who are just starting to drop in, feeling the resistance and the intense energy so directly and the emotion they're not used to feeling. It's like, it's so full on and all this. I'm like, it'll calm down. And after a while, like that same person will come back and be like, actually, the sensations aren't intense. The reaction's intense to the sensations. And it's like, yep. Yeah. And the reaction's not necessary. The sensation just, it's not whether it's necessary or not, it's just there, right? Like I just said to Jennifer, it's already there. The reaction's where the massive change will come. The intensity of the reaction. Or even the tendency to react. Okay, this is Alex. Do you think there are some psychotherapy types that are more compatible on the path of awakening than others? I'll just make a very broad statement here. I'm more interested in the therapist, how awake the therapist is. Okay? So it says, for example, in CBT, the existence of a self and free will seem to be very fundamental. So most or all of therapy is taught that way. It just is, that you're trying to make a healthier self. If that's not too reified in the particular therapeutic intervention with the therapist, then it doesn't matter. That's just a fundamental of therapeutic ideology, right? But if the therapist has sort of ego erosion, self-erosion, and or they're awake and so forth, and they're skilled and they're compassionate, that doesn't matter, right? So I really don't think it's so much the paradigm or the approach. It's the therapist, in my humble opinion, when it comes to this kind of thing. Pamela, I notice sometimes that there is more fear of losing what's here than love or appreciation or presence with what's here. A rough shadow to admit, even to myself. Yeah. But let me make it a very simple observation about this. And I totally know what you mean, Pamela. Totally, 100%. Let me make a very simple observation. One of those two things you mentioned is actually happening. That's it. Presence is here. The loss of presence is a thought about what's not here or what could not be here later. Presence is always going to be here in one form or another, even if you're not, right? Does that make sense? So when you see that, it's so beautiful. It's so relieving to see, like, oh, the fear thoughts are always something that's not happening. It's like, yeah, but aren't you, what about this? What about that? Preparing for a future that can never come because it's a made up future. Because there is no future in that way. There's only what's happening right now. And that doesn't come and go. This is from Ashley, who knows about DNA, said, A to the T, C to the G. That's true. Hydrogen bonding. She said, okay, I'll stop nerding out now. I'm a nerd too, girlfriend. Nomi says, since the more deepening of this awakening process, I feel drawn to end-of-life care and to pursue training in this field. Never thought I would do this. Awesome. It's a great field. Yeah. A lot of need for it. PSIP says, I wonder what's the most intense case of eighth fetter falling away that I have ever heard of. Well, I don't want to give away anything too confidential. You know, like I do talk to people all the time about this stuff, but there's been some pretty extreme reactions. But why do you want to know? So you can prepare for it. You won't be able to prepare no matter what. You can't prepare for eighth fetter falling. It's impossible. The one thing that's preparing is what falls away. It's mind-boggling that the mind has any belief that it can know that. It just can't know it. You can't know it. So what's underneath is it's less about the surprise. It's more about the trauma underneath, actually, I think. And there's actually some karmic stuff there too, for sure. That has to do with how you deal with the trauma. But that's more what it's about, what's underneath it. But you can't predict it. You can't know what it's like through the lens of self to see what it will be like when there's no self. It's like the most absurd question in the universe in a way, right? Not your question. I'm not picking on you. I'm saying it's a fascinating thing, what this thing we're talking about. No matter, I could explain it to you till I go blue in the face with the best possible words or whatever, and it won't be that. It won't be. You'll still be surprised. Show me one person that wasn't surprised when the eighth fetter fell. Or, well, when the self structure fell, let's say that. Cool. Tanya, decades in academia, all knowledge vanished. Knowing isn't interesting anymore. I quit. This would normally freak me out, but I feel calm. Ooh, I like it. Yet have a sense that I'm supposed to do something about it. No, you don't need to do anything. Well, remain in that curiosity. This will go deeper. I love your sincerity and trust in the process. Very cool. Elisa says, can the disorientation that sometimes occurs in this process called dizziness? Oh, totally. Cause dizziness? Yeah. I was just talking to someone about the eighth fetter falling yesterday, and this person's having dizziness. It definitely happens. You adjust to it, but yeah. Joez Bucker, probably butchered it. Hey, Angelo, someone once said to me that if you wake up deeply, you encounter a kind of primordial fear. You can, but the flip side of that fear is a primordial power. This has resonated with me. Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. It's a little different for everybody. The timing is different for everybody, but yeah, existential fear for sure. And I'm feeling it more and more, but still in the discovery stage. Anything you can say about this primordial power, if it makes sense to you? I would caution you to not to try to like utilize it or use it, because you'll end up in your head about it. You might mislead yourself. It's more like I'll say it's more like awe in the power of reality. It's not like you have magical powers though. I wouldn't say it that way, but yeah. It's a powerful position to have no position. And no one enjoys that power. There's no one to benefit from the power. It's just here. All right. This one's from Unique Name, but not spelled the way you think it should be spelled. I love that. It says, I'm still waiting on a shift. Maybe I need to stop watching non-duality content for a while. Maybe. You could also consider the one-pointed approach. Just one-pointed, singular focus of the mind, such that those little sneaky doubts quit grabbing you. Because everything you're saying is a doubt too, right? Waiting is a doubt. Waiting is a doubt. Stop waiting. Stop waiting. I know what your mind says when you hear me say stop waiting, right? It says, well, I can't do that. Or it can't be that simple, right? Stop believing that thought right now. Stop waiting. Stop anticipating, stop waiting, stop believing thoughts. Stop. Mm. Yeah. Amadeus says, Angelo, do you find an insight around helping a parent who doesn't accept help? It's pretty hard to see someone in pain who wouldn't take any advice. Yeah. No. I don't mean to be blunt because I've lived that. I used to believe like at some point I could help my family or something. I didn't know I believed it. It wasn't an overt belief, but there was like this kind of sense like, oh, if I wake up enough, I should be able to help them or something. It turns out that's not the case. I don't think of it that way at all anymore. If someone wants to wake up, they're going to. And there's a lot of help. I can't really help them wake up, but I can point, I can suggest orientations or help relieve the obstructions or pull the rug or, I don't know, whatever it is I do. But they have to be ready to wake up. They have to be wanting to wake up. If somebody's not, you're probably, I wouldn't say you're doing them a disservice, but you're probably decreasing the chance that they're going to wake up anytime soon if you force it on them in any way at all. So what I would really do is check in with yourself. Who are you trying to make feel better? Who are you trying to make feel better? Even if you're a heart-based, heart-open, empathic human being, which you probably are, you're still trying to make yourself feel better because you don't want to continue to empathize with their suffering. The real answer is fully empathize with their suffering such that you don't try to fix it. That's the bodhisattva way, right? That's when you see suffering as the conduit, not only for you, for them, for anyone, but you also see that their own attunement to suffering, their own maturing of what suffering is and that it's happening is karmic. It's not on your preferred timeline. Yeah. This one's from Grand Theft Sam. That's a great name. In Unbound Consciousness creates the itchy quality of thought. In Unbound Consciousness creates the itchy quality of thought. I'm not sure what you're saying there. Are you asking me that or? But no, Unbound Consciousness doesn't create an itchy quality of thought. The itchy quality of thought is a habituated reaction to thought. Unbound Consciousness is when maybe you don't scratch that itch. There's more to the question, though. It says where you want to reach out and scratch, make contact with the thought, even though it's impossible. So that urge to interact with thought, that urge to push or pull on thought, the urge to resist a thought, the urge to identify with a thought, that's the itch you're talking about. And my answer is don't scratch the itch. That's it. Don't try to figure it out, but don't scratch the itch. Don't define anything, just don't scratch the itch, including the itch to define any of the shit. Don't scratch it. It's kind of what I've been saying. There's been a theme today of that kind of approach to awakening, doubt, and so forth. Just don't scratch the itch, man. Alex says, would it be fine to do the practices from your app as walking meditations? Sure. With ADHD, oh shoot, my page scrolled. Happens sometimes. Okay, here we go. With ADHD, sitting still can sometimes obscure clarity rather than support it. Totally. Move around, it's fine. No problem. PSP says, could you speak on science and philosophy of science, the hidden illusions that are assumed? How would you propose a more mature foundation of philosophy on, oh my gosh. I like your questions, PSP, but some of them are very theoretical, and this is super theoretical and a very big, broad theoretical question. So, yeah. Plus, yeah, I'm not really answering questions about science specifically. It's interesting stuff, though. I am interested in it. I just, in this setting, it's more about awakening. It also says, what changed in me regarding that after awakening? I don't know. I think I had a scientific mind before and after, but I very, very obviously saw that no understanding, no philosophy, no scientific understanding is ever going to bridge the gap of realization. Ever. Never could. Never will. That was fucking crystal clear. Still is. So maybe that's the answer to your question. Monique says, Merry Christmas from sunny Florida. Baby, it's warm outside. Cool. Florida, yeah. I grew up in Colorado, so we often have snowy wind. Well, snowing on Christmas Day, not super common, but snow on the ground, not uncommon. Cold, pretty common. Sometimes a little warm. Right now it's actually rather warm, but we'll see what it is in a couple days. It's from The Stone Rejected by the Builders. Resistance from my mind. How can you take your job seriously when you truly believe the world as form is just an illusion anyway? People might get hurt or die when not following illusory procedures. What makes you think I don't follow procedures? If I'm not in my head, it's so much more easy to follow procedures, to pay attention to what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you take things way too seriously, you're thinking about yourself too much. You're worried, you get into worry territory and fear, and you have all this unnecessary thought and distraction. And what if this happens? What if that happens? You're not always paying attention. So I find that's called anxiety, right? Panic, worry, all that. So it's nice to be free of all that, but it doesn't mean I don't follow procedures. It doesn't mean I don't do the right thing, because I do. Yeah, it's just calm when I do it. Even when the shit hits the fan, I can be calm. PSP says, what about in relationships where one hasn't woken up? If the ego illusion is still there, can there be total honesty? There can be, but you might trigger the other person. DK Dude Man says, Angela seems to be pretty skilled at following the illusory procedures. Yeah, so far, I'd say I'm a good anesthesiologist. Not the best there is, but I'm better than average, I think. I'm lucky I'm in a group of good anesthesiologists. It's really nice. We have a good environment. We work really well with the surgeons we work with. Good collegial environment. Autumn says, the fact that the work is being done behind the scenes is so relieving. Every time you say, you can't fuck this up, gives me both peace and trust that it will happen when it's supposed to. Ryan says, hey, Angelo. Hey, Ryan. It was great to see you at the retreat. Yeah, you too, bud. I haven't seen you in a long time. So it seems like young people tend to move faster through this process on average. Is that likely because they have more neuroplasticity? If so, could that be a case for periodically using psychedelics, which temporarily increase neuroplasticity? It's interesting. A few years ago, I would have said younger people wake up faster. Maybe it's just that it's more common that younger people wake up because the older people I interact with have already had awakenings years ago. So I don't know. It's a little hard for me to say that now. Yeah, I think it's a kind of biased sample. I think I'm not so sure about that anymore. Yeah. Surprisingly, young people can wake up, by the way. People in their teens can wake up. People in their early 20s can wake up for sure. The psychedelic thing, if you're really stuck, it can be helpful probably, maybe, to give a push, to open something up. I don't rule it out, but I don't necessarily recommend it across the board because it's totally not necessary for sure for everyone. But for some people, that may be part of the deal, Yeah. PSP says, after the falling away of fetters and the shadow work getting revved up, is it more common than repressed memories come up or mainly repressed emotions? Repressed emotions, mainly. Ashley says, I don't know about others, and I have never done psychedelics myself, but the trippiness that happened to me after about day 4 on Silent Retreat was wild enough as it is. I had a silent retreat a few years ago, and I said to somebody at the beginning before we started, I always say hi to people, and I said to someone, have you been on a retreat before? And she said, no, never silent retreats. I've done psychedelic retreats. And I said, oh, it can get pretty psychedelic. And I don't remember what she said, but at the end of the week, she came up to me. She goes, oh my God, you weren't kidding. She goes, I thought you were joking, or I just didn't believe you at all when you said that. She goes, this got really psychedelic. Breath work can get really psychedelic. Like some things can really, definitely when the 7th fetter falls, things can get real psychedelic real fast. Without the side effects, which is nice. Psychedelics have side effects. That's also part of the issue. Swarananda says, do you have referrals for non-dual therapists? Yes. Chelsea is one person I refer to, and Marlon is another person I refer to. And Alma, if she's available and you can get an appointment with her. But if you want a referral, just email me, angelo@simplyalwayswait.com. Jay from the block says, I felt so much love for everyone after AOL. When I can see that everyone and everything is me, outpouring of love just comes. But that state comes and goes. Others feel separate again. Robin Brown says, will treat help with my blockages, resistance patterns? Treat. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm the one with the constant solid energies. Will treat? Sorry, the word you used, treat, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, sorry. Oh, TRE, excuse me. Yeah. It definitely might. Give TRE a try for sure. And if it works for you, but it's like stuck in part of the body or you're having trouble, after you've sort of developed a simple practice of it, use a facilitator at least once and try to see if they can help move things along for you, because they often can. Yeah. Orca says, the conclusion I've come to with therapy is that it depends on the therapist. I totally agree. Yep. Oh, they continued to say, I'll let you know what happens next. They were looking on finding a therapist. But it says a good non-dual guide is actually a much better choice. It can be at times, for sure. Depends what you're after and what's all going on there. What's the most consistently effective move for healing trauma and or long-term emotional knots in your experience? Hands down, deep shadow process, circling like I learned from James McCleary. Inside circle type circling. Not just any circling. Not that other kinds of circling are bad. I just can't vouch for them. They're different. But this particular type, and I've been trying to scale it. I do it at retreats here and there. It's very potent. It works really, really well. And you do it sober. It's a group process. It's very grounding. It's non-dissociative. People are able to connect the dots with what happened, take something out of it. And I've heard more and more times than I can even tell you that it's fundamentally changed things for people in a very good way. So that's the best I've seen. It's very flexible, fluid. Yeah. Ashley says, I sometimes can't tell whether the dizziness is a migraine or whether this is now. I know. Yeah. Jennifer says, just started some trauma therapy. Therapist isn't on the path. It's a somatic approach. EMDR can be good, though. I don't like the encouraged coping skill of thinking into a happy place. I've done that my entire life. That's the one thing about EMDR, honestly, Jennifer, that I don't totally resonate with, right? It's like, let's turn that into a happy thought. It's like, that starts to sound a little like law of attraction or something almost, That's just my simple way of looking at it. But I think EMDR it's a somatic approach. That's what it is. It's using eye movements to distract the mind, the brain, the cognitive process, and just allow you to feel something that you hadn't been able to feel. If it works, great. If not, there are other ways to do that. There are other ways to do somatic practices. Let me see here. J. Charles Carter says, wondering if you have any opinions about 5-MeO. Apparently, Shinzen Young said that out of all the psychedelics, its effects feel closest to what we're trying to orient to. Give it a shot. Z-Dog MD has a really good series. He has like a really long 4-hour version and then a much shorter, like an hour-and-a-half version. And he talks about it in there, him doing it. But he talks about it in a very clear way, and the facilitator he used was a very detailed oriented, precise facilitator with the 5-MeO. So check it out. It's a pretty interesting. Now that portion of it's only probably 20 minutes long or something. But yeah, like I said, I don't tell people they need psychedelics because you don't. You definitely don't. I've met people who've done 5-MeO many times and still need work to get, to formless non-duality and no self-realization for sure. I've seen that a lot, but could it give you a massive breakthrough if you haven't even had an awakening yet, or you're just hitting a wall and you're just totally conceptual and totally mind identified, thought identified? I'm sure it could. It can also be really destabilizing, I'm sure too. But yeah, everybody's path is different. Amadeus says, thank you for the answer. I've long thought it was part of it, taking responsibility to try and help a parent. It's true. I'm trying to take my own pain away. Yeah. And it's just your own compassion. There's nothing wrong with it. Just see it, see it as clearly as you can. Blah, blah, bleep says, is it better to know more or less about non-duality? Should I just practice all the time? I mean this very literally. It's better to know less. Literally, it's better to know less. The people who know the most, sometimes I swear they don't always wake up. And some of the people who wake up the fastest, they don't know anything about it. They just know how to let go. They're willing to let go. That's true. I've seen it many times. All right. Medea says, maybe it's better to have a talk with a therapist around these situations. I have a feeling I'm being too honest and it's hurting this family situation. Everyone goes on their own pace, I guess. Yeah, you just learn it after a while. It's like beating a dead horse, right? Like if somebody doesn't want to wake up, you can't be like, what you need is to wake up. It just doesn't work. They have to be ready karmically, and it's a big deal. Like that I know for sure now. Just after years and years and years and years of experience at all levels with this stuff. So, but again, your heart's in the right place, but you need patience and to trust the karmic chains of causality. This one's from Samas. I've been feeling into the contraction, physically painful, not like feeling around the abdomen, but with no clear emotion or belief. Recommend feeling sensation more deeply or for longer, or inquiring? Inquiring. Now inquiring. You're already feeling it. That's good. Feel it throughout the day. Inquire though. Can I feel this more directly? Is there part of me holding back from this? Is there a border between my awareness of this and the sensation itself? Is there still some layer of interpretation going on right now when I think I'm feeling it? Those kind of inquiry questions are the ones I'd throw on that sucker. Jennifer said, it was 2023, my first AOL retreat. Wild as fuck. Yep. Svantastic says, hey, Angelo, I appreciate you. Lately, I've had this experience I call Buddha mind. That feels like, I know this sounds strange, the very same mind that the Buddha had. Does that sound like the I am? Yes, it does. Very much so. Let's see. This one says, Chris, where is that? This is J. Charles Carter says, Chris Guimond had a group TRE session this past weekend. She's really great. Would recommend. Yeah, Chris is great. Mountains and Fog says, advice for when my mind gives me a compulsive fear that if I don't do something right, something bad will happen. I assume I just stop believing it. Yeah. It tends to pose as if it's an intuition or true intuition. Yeah, I really like, you can get totally in your head about this stuff, right? But I really like what Eckhart Tolle said. He's like, when you're walking up to a hot stove, you don't have to tell yourself, don't put my hand on the stove, don't put my hand on the stove. And you might do it, right? You may have OCD and you're telling yourself that, or who knows. But it's not the thoughts that tell you not to put your hand on your stove. It's because the time you put your hand on a hot stove, your body wired in very deeply saying, don't do it. You probably couldn't put your hand on the stove, even if you tried it, even if your thoughts wanted you to, right? It's like you don't harm yourself or burn yourself or whatever because of the experience or similar experiences, not because you're thinking about it. But the mind doesn't say that. The mind's like, no, you have to think about this. Like, you really got to listen to me. Got to pay attention. Just watch the movie Revolver. It's all in there. For real. Monique Dawson says, my daughter became angry with me the other night. Even though I was calm the whole time, at the end, I just started to cry. It felt like it was coming from someone else, unexpected. That's really sweet. 777 said, EMDR was okay. Circling was better by 1,000,000 miles. I remember it. I remember it well. That was a trip. All right. Jennifer says, I'm picking and choosing what I'm doing. I like the eye movements, glitches my mind. But yesterday left me quite tired and agitated. I didn't think into a happy space, but still dissociated. Yeah. Okay, this is Consciousness Call Center. My sense is that the fetters 1 through 5 correspond to the falling away of the ego. Fetters 6 through 10 correspond to the falling away of the I am. It's not a bad way of saying it. I like it. All right. How are we doing? Got a little bit of time left, but not much. Robin Brown says, I realized I was whole during stillness. I didn't know about shadow work or the fetters, so I changed my thoughts with acceptance and my brain rewired. Not my intention, just happened. Let's see. And then it says Kundalini, part 2. Where's part 2? Part 2. Kundalini healed some of the body. Now paranormal stuff and solid energies and now resistance. Yeah, you're a somatic. You're kind of a, what we call like a kinesthetic type person, right? That's what it sounds like. This one's from Garden Goblin. When practicing Mu, do you keep going into Mu or stay wide and open? Mu. 100% Mu. Don't worry about wide and open. Completely, absolutely, just Mu. Become one with Mu. Till there's just Mu. Mu, mooing, Mu. This one's from Night Lily. Speaking about a relationship, when one is awakened and another is supportive but not interested, continue. My husband going through a credit card bill. Dear, there is a suspect charge from Simply Always Awake on my bill. Do you have any idea what this is? That is a very weird name. LOL. I laughed so hard. Well, I do appreciate your contributions, as I appreciate everyone's contributions here at whatever level. Helps us to keep the whole thing going, the ship afloat. Appreciate y'all. 777 says, Debbie Miller also does TRE sessions now, and she's awesome. Yeah, Debbie's great. I trust her a lot. Oh, this is Adam said, I watched Revolver as soon as I got home. You nailed it. It's phenomenal. I watched it again this weekend with a friend. Like, it's such a great movie. This is from Brenda. Like, keep the at the moment exploring in the senses. That seems to be what's calling and feels right. Looking sharp with those glasses. I too am looking at Fetter 8. The I am sense seems to be subconsciously present, but not findable at all. How can it be seen through in an abiding sense? Well, don't worry about abiding, because the only thing that abides is the sense of I. But I know what you mean. It's just like I talked about up higher. I don't know if you were here at the beginning of this, but it's really about it's really about the best way I can say it is noticing. It's very subtle and instinctual now, but it's noticing that there's something there sometimes, and then sometimes it's just not there. And that can change in a moment. It's almost there and it's not there. But it has an effect. It's a filter of some kind. Or I think as Kevin Chanelek said it seems to like try to partition experience somehow into experience that a self is experiencing, and to just pure experience. That's kind of how it is. Just look really closely at what's actually occurring. That's how it comes. That's how it comes out. That's how it settles itself. All right. Garden Goblin says, I notice a subtle tensing of my upper body around a dense core in my chest. Is this what you refer to as resistance? Totally. Yeah. And the same goes for you, for what I've said to others, is like the kinds of inquiry questions I listed a bit ago. Exactly that. I ask those same sorts of questions. The themes today have been like approaching awakening, like right at the edge, and doubt, and then somatic densities, blockages, contractions. Those are the themes today. So if you watch through this whole thing, you'll see me talk about those over and over. Awesome. All right, everybody. Y'all rock. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your donations. DK Dude Man said, my professor of Intro to Buddhism told us about a Zen master kicking a person awake. So I told him about the note card that said, take the elevator. Yeah, that's a reference to the movie Revolver. All right, y'all. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, and have a wonderful holiday, Christmas, Festivus, Hanukkah, New Year's, all the things. Have a blast. Yalda was last night, first day of winter. Yeah. Thank you, guys.